Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Automated Advantage. Today we have Eric Pohl on, who's the CEO of a nonprofit called mydata.org. He's got some experience in business background. He's got a lot of information to bring to the table and a very unique business model and nonprofit that he's offering. Love to get his perspective, and I'm sure you're going to learn a bunch of things from this. Enjoy. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Automated Advantage. Today we have Eric Polon, who's got a very interesting background, and I'm excited to hear a lot from him. So, Eric, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks, Greg, and it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Uh, in a nutshell, I'm a dad of four, two boys and two girls. So I'm a true believer in parity. I worked very hard on it, and I've been working my whole career with innovators, mostly in Europe, but also in the US and more lately in Africa. And at the moment, I'm chairing My Data Global, which is a non-profit based in Helsinki with members in 45 countries and counting. And well, as the name states, we're all about data and AI governance.
Yeah, and so as you said, nonprofit. So maybe explain to people, what's the overarching concept of the nonprofit and how you're helping companies and that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, where to start? Well, initially, the internet and the web were created to actually link people, uh, be they scientists from CERN and then going on. But I'm not really sure it's still the case today. And in fact, when I look at from my investor perspective at the digital market, that's the only market where you have supply that is force feeding demand. It's not a balance between supply and demand. So, well, why does it matter? Well, because I think that because of this, we have business model which is really based on advertising, and a lot of data is not used. So, what we believe in my data is that by giving people more power, more control over their data, this will unleash more value, more data that is not used at the moment. And if the business model can be for using data can be around improving health, improving finance for families, improving education, improving infrastructure, cities, etc. I'm all for it. So basically, this is what we are doing at my data.
Yeah, and you said, so you did say advertising and stuff. So, how are people finding you and how are you attracting clients? And then, maybe not to go too deep, but a little bit more specifically, if somebody finds you, like what's the engagement and how do you assist them?
Okay. Well, first of all, they are not clients, because we are a non-profit, so they can be members, they can be partners,
Mhm.
they can be, well, obviously, since I'm here today in the European Parliament, they can be legislators, regulators, etc. Um, so, well, first of all, and if you're watching the podcast, you can join us by going to our website, which is mydata.org. So pretty straightforward. Um, more seriously, we engage at different levels. So both on the regulatory side, so here in Europe, but also in Japan, in Korea, and in other parts of the world. And we advocate for rights. So we were born activists 10 years ago, and we still work on it, especially when it comes to digital rights for children or young adults, which is obviously a very important subject, especially now with AI starting to take off. And we have, well, regional hubs. We have thematic hubs. I was talking about children. We have My Data for children. We're working on AI, working on agentic AI, so people can join us and talk with us. But we're not just about talking. And from activist, we've moved to a role of a catalyst. So we're also coming up with well, we're helping the market develop. We are also helping new solutions arise. One of them that is very exciting at the moment is called My Terms, and that's the first machine readable standard for personal privacy. It was developed by IEEE over the last 8 or 9 years, so it's really solid standard that was published at the end of January, and now it needs to be, well, a good standard is as good as it is used. So now we need to roll it out. So whether you're an academic, a lawyer, a regulator, legislator, or a company, startup, or large corporate, for instance, I was talking about Japan, Fujitsu and NTT Data are members of our nonprofit, or your individuals or your parents, and you have either worries or questions or great ideas that you want to implement. Well, you can talk to us.
It's interesting you say about the privacy and all of that. So my parents were my son is in the United States Navy, and they were 2 weeks ago got scammed by an AI that was his voice, knew where he just moved to a new place, they knew where he lived, and wanted, which I realized afterwards, $9,500, which is just below the $10,000 limit of transferring money. And it's incredible how realistic that type of stuff is.
Yeah, which is why, especially for parents or grandparents. I mean, my mom is 88. She's using, she has her iPad, she banks online, etc. All this kind of stuff. But still, what we recommend is for within a family to have like a magic question that only you in the family know. So even if the voice it looks up, but you ask this question, and then if it's not someone that you know that pretends to be a member of your family, clearly they won't have this answer.
I love that. I'm going to tell my parents that today. So, yeah, my dad's 89 as well, and I mean, interestingly enough, they only have a couple of dollars, but they were actively looking to figure out a way to pull money and send it, and
Of
then
course,
decided to give us a call.
as parents and grandparents, that's the first thing you want to do: help your kids.
Yeah, no, for sure. So the other thing is, I know when we had our kind of pre-conversation to discuss, meeting each other and things like that, jokingly and maybe not so jokingly, you said, "Hey, I have a lot to say," but I also am very curious about like your broader perspective on maybe give us some of your background as you're telling me some interesting stories, and then maybe evolve that into, hey, if somebody's out there like looking to start a business or something like that, some words of wisdom, some advice that you've seen that you would give to people.
I don't know if it's wisdom, but yeah, I can give it a try. So I've been working initially mostly in the health sector. So it started with pharma, medtech, and then it developed to genomics, and from genomics obviously into data. And so initially more in private equity and secondary private equity, and in private secondary, obviously I got to work with VC funds, so either true true VC funds, or but also corporate VCs, so linked to a big corporate, some names, Siemens, GE, etc. And so as I was saying, mostly in the US and in the EU, well, EU, Europe, because also in Switzerland, the UK, etc. And if I have to give some words of wisdom, well, that's not really easy, but a few bullet points probably. First of all, validation. That's really key. Do not build something that nobody wants. It sounds obvious, but how many pitch decks do you see where people haven't really checked if potential customers would be happy to pay for their product. And I'm talking data. I'm talking also non data. But in data, the freemium system is only working if you address a very large market. But guess what? Very large markets nowadays in data are already taken up. So it's better to really achieve market fit, because if you don't do this, you will end up with well, basically people don't caring about what you have to offer, and you will be a copycat, or you will be so, and you will struggle to survive. So my advice on this is really achieve market fit, find a niche that is good for you, where you are good, where you have really identified a need, and then and where you can add value. And if you can add value, you can get paid for that. This is what this is something really I learned in the States, and I love it. If the price is zero, often it's that it has no value. Well, now we know that on some systems because you are the product, but that's and why is it important? Because if when you're going to run after your your business model, your first customers, etc., your burn rate is going to be super important. So, so I guess that's the first part. The second part is how to approach things. First of all, have at least one co-founder, because if you're the only founder in your company, statistics aren't on your side. It will be much more difficult. Find someone who is complementary to what you have to offer. Also, another point that is when I was saying that I was working for diversity, it's a first round, I think, that made a study over their portfolio over time. Currently, they have roughly 200 companies in their portfolio, but over time they have invested in more than 1,200. And they realized that companies where the team of founders had at least one woman were performing 67% better. So if you're looking for a co-founder and you're not a woman, well, then make sure that one of your co-founder is a woman. Also, in terms of investor, well, if possible, go for smart money investors that will bring something to your company, and especially if you're early stage, I would really look twice before bringing in angel investors, because some of them are very good, some others, well, have been successful. Okay, fair enough, but by experience, I've seen quite a few of them who are quite greedy. Say, "Oh yes, I know, I know it all. I'm going to invest in your company, and by the way, give me a 49 or 51% of your company," which means that when you will raise the next fund, you will be a minority shareholder, which is not great for you, but it's not great for the investor either. I mean, that's really short-termism on the investor side, because then it means that as a founder, you will lose all motivation. And you will maybe be looking, if you're a true innovator, you will be looking for your next innovation. So
Yeah, and I think some people get to that point of quote unquote desperation, and I'm literally, well, hey, somebody's going to give me $10, I'm going to take my $10, right? Just I need to move forward, and that's kind of highlighting what you're saying.
yeah, sure, but friends, fools, and family. This is what you should start with.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe there are grants out there from your local authority, from another organization, maybe from a foundation. When I was talking about niche markets, if you're really into a niche, it's quite likely that there's a foundation out there that is caring for this niche, and that could give you a push. Then there are also incubators which are very good.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Disclaimer: I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for business angels. I, I, I have quite a few friends who are business angels. I'm myself, and I would hate them to come at me and say, "Hey, what was that all about?" I'm just
That
asking for or advising caution.
exactly. You're giving practical advice. Make sure you weigh up your options is the way we should look at that. Um, yeah, and I mean that's kind of interesting comments as it relates to that type of move forward and investment options. And then I got to believe that in the initial stages, depending on where you are, there's a lot of hustle. There's a lot of, like you said, if you have, maybe just let's just stick to you're a single founder and you're doing all of the activities and things like that. But then also maybe if you want to go to like a leadership style and like what's what's some of the key factors that you think are critical for people to be able to not only get it going but then kind of take it to the next step.
Um, the first one by far is be resilient. Don't uh, don't dream of becoming the next Elon Musk. Huh? Know that it's going to be tough, that you're going to have good days, but mostly bad days, and you need to be super resilient for this. Then the second one is well, it goes back to what I was saying about the co-founder. Work in teams because it's better. Also, you bring in capabilities that you don't have, and well, listen to others, but don't listen too much, especially so don't get distracted in that sense. And yeah, I guess that's the one. Those are the most important, I guess. There's on the other side, uh, know also what your weaknesses are,
Mhm.
because especially when the company is scaling, maybe you're not the right person for the job any longer. Maybe you should disengage a bit or stay very much engaged, but hire a CEO that has the capabilities to make your company scale. If you start at four, well, when maybe your limit is at 40 or 40 staff or at 400 or at 4,000, but there's a limit somewhere and you need to be aware of it. Um, Also be clear about this is something I forgot to say before, but that I guess is related is obviously know your metrics and your KPIs, but also know how you're going to make money. And when you talk to an investor, uh, know what your potential exits maybe. And please don't say IPO because you know the joke. How do you recognize a VC when you enter a restaurant? You know the answer?
No.
Well, that's the one that's facing the exit. When you look at a deck, first thing is, how am I going to exit this? Do I see immediately people that might be interested in this business when it will have grown and etc. And if the answer is no, well, I guess that you're going to push it away.
Yeah, that's a very common theme that you mentioned. So I was going to tell you something earlier. It's like when I ask people about, hey, what's your advice to people who want to start a business? It's about 50-50 to entrepreneurs that don't do it. And the other go, be a little bit more practical. But the other piece of it is what you said about surrounding yourself with smart people, knowing your weaknesses and somebody had shared as kind of like there's a difference between being a business founder and being an entrepreneur. Like you can have a wonderful product idea or whatever it is and go and build that, but that doesn't mean you're a good entrepreneur and stuff. Do you see a lot of that as well?
Well, yes, of course, and well, how many great research teams in universities
Mm.
come up with something, but don't go beyond ideation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I, sometimes it's not their fault either. Maybe they don't get the support. I was telling you about my experiences in Africa, which has been very good because they have great people, great brains, great universities, and also great ideas that we may not have in the US or in Europe. Take mobile, for instance. They really leapfrogged the landlines, and they came up with great fintech for people who weren't bankable, etc. This kind of thing. So I guess that, and so yeah, I was telling to a friend who's a dean in an African university, and she was telling me that well, there were a lot of great ideas, but they were not coming to fruition. You know the saying, innovation is universal, opportunity is not. Well, I would say to VCs in Asia, in the Gulf, in Europe, in the US, go and see what is going on in other parts of the world, Latin America, Africa, etc., Southeast Asia. With frugal innovation, you will see very interesting stuff. And in fact, it's the not short-term, but medium-term project I have is to work on this. Innovation is universal. Opportunity is universal too. This is what I would like to do to make sure that we not only we use the 50% brains, which are feminine brains, more into innovation and innovation funding, but also all the great ideas that come from either the global south, but also some parts of the US or of Europe that don't have the proper ecosystem for VC funding. Probably not in early stage, but in later stages, and even more so in scale-ups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know when we talked earlier, and maybe we'll keep the name out if you want to share the name, but you told me about that university in South Africa, about like they used to kind of an interesting story. Maybe we can just touch on that for a quick second.
Yeah, of course, and I can definitely give their name too, because they're a great bunch of people, and they're called Hyrax, and they were born out of the university in South Africa, where you were born. I found out also in our talk. And initially, they came for me for advice because they were fundraising, and they were raising $5 million. And I saw the email. I was quite busy. I didn't respond. Then they were persistent. So maybe that's another piece of advice: be persistent, and do your homework as well. Know what your potential investors are interested in, and they contacted me again, saying, "Well, here is what we are doing, and we are raising $5 million, etc." Blah, blah, blah. And then so I said, "Well, really, I don't really know what I can do for you, and it's not in my priorities at the moment. So sorry, guys, and best of luck." Then they came back a third time, saying, "Oh, Eric, we are coming to a congress in Amsterdam. Do you still want to talk to us?" And since I'm based in Brussels, I thought, okay, if they are flying 12 hours, maybe I can take a small train ride and go and see them. First question they ask when they sit is, "Well, why didn't you respond to us?" And that was a very fair question. So maybe another piece of advice: ask the real questions, and dig into it. And so why didn't I answer them? Well, simply because they had a competitor in the US which has raised $1 billion US. So when you raise 5 million, how do you plan to compete? And what they did when I answered this, they simply burst laughing. They said, "Well, yeah, of course, we're going to raise 50 million after that, That was the plan then. But and then in comparison to this U.S. startup which had raised $1 billion, they say, well, in the U.S., in Europe, you're really spoiled brats. You want calculation power? You have calculation power, no problem. Well, guess what? We don't. So our algorithm, and it's an algorithm that was looking, if I'm not mistaken, at the variations in DNA. So it was really very, very tiny thing. So indeed, you look for a lot of calculation power, like a needle in a haystack, and they say, well, guess what? Our algorithm is like starting by going with a torch around the haystack, and when we see a glitter, then this is where we're going. And so eventually, Hyrax raised capital, and they developed, and they enlisted their first three customers, all three Americans. Well, no, sorry, two Americans and one Swiss, but Quest Diagnostics, Thermo Fisher, and Roche, and to be so the Swiss pharma company. But to be fair, Roche Genomics used to be in Silicon Valley, so they were quite American. So that's the proof that with frugal innovation and by hard thinking, you can work well. And also one other point about competition. It's important to look at competition, including competition that is not in your immediate vicinity before starting. But then once you're hitting the road, go for it, and don't spend too much time on your competition, because when you look at startup failures, generally they are linked to things that are not working internally in your startup. It's not the market that's going to throw you away, especially if you have chosen a careful or a really fitting niche.
Yeah. And and maybe I got this wrong, but did you not tell me also that the $1 billion startup never went to market, or did I get that wrong?
Well, I'm not exactly sure what they did, but
Oh,
certainly when Hyrax got its first three customers, they were nowhere to be seen.
there you go. Well, so there people is and I think that's a good thing. Tenacity, follow up. Don't be a pest, but know that you got some value, and go after the right people. So that's huge. And there is a South African directness that I think comes from that a little bit as well. But
Absolutely.
so Eric, this was incredibly helpful. Super enlightening. So tell us again. Maybe like you say, people wanting to join the nonprofit. MyData.org. You're active on LinkedIn. Maybe just give us a quick commercial and how to find you.
Well, indeed, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Eric Pohl. So I guess it will be written in the podcast. When you go on mydata.org, you have several buttons. Whether you want to just interact with us, read our declaration. We have a brand new declaration which is future-proof, hopefully, on what we stand for. And then if you agree with those principles, you can join us as a member, but you can also join the community we are using a platform that you can join freely to interact with peers, etc. You can make a donation if you want as well. This kind of thing.
Okay, well that's good. So folks, follow that. We're excited to put this podcast out there for everybody to see. Once again, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day, and hopefully you're making some changes at the Parliament there. So.
Little by little, yes, hopefully. Well, thanks, Greg. It was a real pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.